This is TWiT.
All right, folks, it is time to take a look at the Steam Deck from Valve. So this is a brand new handheld console that's goal is to be a kind of mobile console that will play games that you could play on your gaming PC and everything in between. And so I got this, we did an unboxing of this previously, but I got this and wanted to give it a real try to see if this could serve as my gaming PC. I've only got my Mac. I don't have a gaming PC separate from that. And I wanted to see if this would work as that replacement. And I've got a lot to say, so we should get into things. But I want to start by talking about this case itself. This is the case that it actually ships with from the company whenever you get your Steam Deck in the mail. And on the back of it, it's got this nice little bungee cord here where the USB-C charger adapter is inside. My one complaint about this adapter is that it does not have the ability to fold away those prongs. So those prongs are just sticking right out, and you can tell that this is made so that they can change the type of plug that you have here, but I am not able. This is not user changeable, at least not intended to be user changeable. And on the other side, you've got USB-C, so that's the other thing. This cord, you don't get the opportunity to plug this in and use it elsewhere. It's all one device specifically made for the Steam Deck itself. So I'm going to put that to the side and we'll get into things here. A really nice zippered case. On the front, you've even got one of those latches that you can stick a lock into if you want to. And when it came sealed with those closed. And so we'll open it up, and inside is a really nice padded and shaped case. So this case actually has spots for the joysticks, as you can see here, and the front of the device itself, and a little white kind of lift here, as you can see, to pull it out, and then divots on the sides for all of the different touch points. I have the mid-tier model. This is the 256 gigabyte model. And it's important to note that the base model comes in at 64 gigabytes and it uses eMMC memory. The mid-tier and the top tier use NVMe SSDs inside. And I've got, as I said, the 256 gig. There's a 512 gig model. And folks, my first recommendation for you, get the biggest one you can. Games are big, it turns out, and they will take up a lot of space on your Steam Deck pretty quickly. Luckily, there is an SD card slot on the base of it, and so you can add extra storage if you want to afterward. Do a Google search for best SD card for Steam Deck, and there are a few different articles out there that will give you some advice on which one to go with. Before we even turn the thing on, I want to talk about the controls here because there's a lot to work with. You've got your typical joysticks on top. Those have, the click functionality as well, and they move like joysticks, and they're really good quality as well. There's no real give to them until you actually move them, so you're not going to have to worry about that drift. There's the standard D-pad layout. These little squares here are both trackpads, and they are haptic trackpads, meaning that they will actually provide some vibration as you move across them, and when you push on them, it kind of pushes back so you can feel that. The Steam Deck button, which will give you access to the menu. Over on the other side is kind of a settings button that will work in different games. The other D-pad, which is awesome. And then you've got your standard A, B, X, Y controls here for pressing the buttons. And did I mention that the screen is also a touch screen? Yeah, pretty impressive. This is a 7-inch 1280 by 800 LCD touchscreen display with 60 hertz refresh rate. And when you dock it, which we'll talk about a little later as well, you can go up to 8K at 60 hertz or 4K at 120 hertz. Yes, this bad boy goes all the way. On the top here, we've got your volume controls and a headphone jack. This might be a modern console, but it still supports the headphone jack. USB-C for charging, but also for docking. Your power at the top, and your standard L1, R1, L2, R2 controls. But Valve took things a little further by including on the back R4, R5, L4, and L5 controls. So you are able to, while you kind of have it in your hand, press those controls and be able to use those for games that support them. You see this little grill here on the back. This grill is for output of cooling And on the top, you've got kind of the other spot. So the fan can go ahead and blow past all of the internal components. And depending on the game you're playing, you will hear and feel that fan in no time flat. So let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. I will say when I first unboxed this, I was surprised at how large it is. It is quite a big device. I mean, this is an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and you can kind of see my hand up against, here, let me get that in frame. You can kind of see my hand up against the iPhone 13 Pro Max for comparison. I've got pretty big hands. And when I hold this Steam Deck here, you can see that it is a pretty big device with that 7-inch panel up there on the front. So we'll power it on. And one of the first things that you notice when it comes on is, of course, the display lights up, but it already kind of gets you set with some haptic feedback as it is booting up. So you'll hear and feel some vibrations as the system boots up and you go through the process of setting it up. I will note that the boot process is a little long as things are loading and getting into place. This, of course, is a Linux device built into this console. And of course, it's making some sounds. You'll get to hear those a little bit better later as we plug it in and show you kind of on a big screen. But I just wanted to show that boot up sequence, and we'll plug it in here in just a moment. So once you're there, you've got all these options for how you want to interact. You can use the joysticks to access these different devices. You can use the D-pad over on the left, or I can actually tap on the screen to make those adjustments. It's got Wi-Fi built in, so you can connect via Wi-Fi. And if you do use a USB-C dock, then you will be able to actually use Ethernet if you'd like to do those connections. I wanted to briefly mention, this again is the standard case that comes with it. I note that it's a little bulky, and your only storage option really is that strap on the back where you can drop in the USB-C charger. But if you've got something like, for example, a dock that you want to use with it, then you might want to check out like a third-party case. So Waterfield Designs makes a few different cases for the Steam Deck, and this is the one that they sent me that's a simple one. You unzip it, and you can slide in the Steam Deck, and it's got that really nice soft interior. And so that slides in there, and it's got this pocket on the back where you can put in the charging. And then on the front here, I can easily unzip and drop in that USB-C dock so that it's there and good to go. So I really like this case just as an extra option if I want to be mobile and be able to slide this into a backpack. I feel like it's comfortable and safe. There are lots of different cases out there that you can check, so don't feel like you're kind of stuck with the one that comes from Valve itself, because again, it is a little bulky and doesn't provide options for, like, if I have headphones or something that I want to put in there. So what we're going to do now, I've got this TWiT brand dock here, and this is a dock that has Ethernet. It's got SD cards and USB-A slots and all kinds of stuff on the side. But what we're working with here is just the HDMI and then the USB-C that's actually powering it. You can power your device through the dock. So I'm going to pull this forward and we're going to plug it in. And that is going to make it so that we can show this screen full screen. So we'll plug that in, and it takes a second while it kind of recognizes things, and then it will export to this dock, which will then show us what it looks like on screen. At that point, you notice here that the screen has gone dark on the actual display. At this point, the Steam Deck itself just becomes a controller. So it's actually there to be able to let you use the stuff on your screen. So let's talk about using this as a console. I've downloaded some different games to the device, and first thing we're going to do is go into the settings menu so that I can show you the storage. So we'll hop into settings, and we're going to scroll down until we get to storage. And you can see that this has 256 gigabytes of space, and I am using about a third of the storage space. I had a different game downloaded that took up 2/3 of the storage space on this device. So again, pretty quick, you're going to want to get an SD card if you want to use this. So let's pop back to the main screen. And here is what I want to tell you. First and foremost, if you want to use this as a mobile console for playing some kind of pixel games, those sorts of games, I think you're really going to like this. Stardew Valley, there's a game called Graveyard Keeper. There's a game that's in sort of early access mode called Traveler's Rest, those games work very well on this console. I was able to play multiple hours, 3 or 4 hours, without having to worry about plugging it in. The fan didn't spin up except maybe at the launch of it, but after that it was good to go, and it worked very quickly. With other games, we had trouble, but I'm going to go ahead and launch Stardew Valley here, just so you can kind of see how it looks, how it plays. Stardew Valley is a game that's been around for quite a while now. It's available on lots of different consoles. What's cool about this system is that it's a Linux-based machine, but through SteamOS and the systems that are built into this, you can actually play games that are for Windows. The one thing that I'll note is that different games offer different levels of compatibility with the Steam Deck. And Valve actually has a really easy-to-use system that has little icons to tell what the games are that work very well or don't work as well. So we'll talk about those in a second. But I'll go ahead and load a game here real quick, just so you can see what this looks like. And again, this is like a little 8-bit game, so it is going to soar on the Steam Deck. So Stardew Valley is a game that was a PC game originally, and so you used a keyboard to kind of control it. So actually being able to use it with a handheld device is a little bit different. A keyboard would pop up if you needed it to on screen, which you can then tap to be able to access different controls. But the game controls have been mapped so that you're able to use the console just as it is. It looks great. I've never had any issues with the screen kind of pausing temporarily and there being any issue with that. This one works just fine. And with Steam's Cloud Sync technology, I've always got access to the most recent version of the game. So we're going to exit out of this back to the desktop so I can tell you about the icons here. So you'll notice that in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little check mark next to an icon that's a circle with a half circle around the outside of it. That is the Steam Deck icon on the left. The check mark that's green means that the controls are absolutely great. This game has been tested to work with Steam Deck, and it works just fine. Icewind Dale is the same thing, Valheim as well, but we go over to let's find one that's this. Okay, so here's one, 2 Point Hospital. This is, there's a little eye icon, and that is because although the game will work with the Steam Deck, it's not 100% compatible. So there are some times where you will have to use your thumbs or your fingers as an on-screen cursor for it. And then there are some games like Solasta, Crown of the Magister, that has a circle with a slash through it. That shows you that this game is absolutely not compatible. All right, without further ado, we're going to do what we set out to do in the first place, and that is test whether the Steam Deck can Valheim. Can it play Valheim? First and foremost, you'll note in the game info section that this game is a verified compatible game with the Steam Deck. But do you want to play it on the Steam Deck? That is where I think you might find it is not quite the game for the Steam Deck. So we're going to launch this game. And I want to note something. When I first downloaded this game to the Steam Deck, I had it set up with kind of the default controls. And I didn't have it plugged in at the time. And the fan started to spin up. It was blowing hot air out at me. And the battery was going down quickly. I had to plug it in order to play it at all. On top of that, the video was stuttering. It was slow to load fully. It would not actually play as I had expected it to. Plugging it in helped to improve it, but on top of plugging it in, I actually needed to drop the video graphics settings for it. So let's check out Valheim here. We'll start this game, and I've got a character here called Elivor, which just so happens to be the name of my D&D character, and we will start this game. Now again, when this loads, you're going to notice pretty poor texture. If you are a TWiT fan, you've probably seen Leo Laporte playing Valheim on his gaming PC. That looks so much better because he can ramp up all of the different in-game graphics, whereas this required an absolute ramp down in order to play it. So that was one of the sort of sacrifices you will have to make if you want to play on the Steam Deck. But if you just kind of want a console that you can take with you, pull out of a bag and be able to play, then it's not so bad. So I am inside of a little house that I built right now, which is good because there aren't a whole lot of graphics that I have to worry about. The fire is kind of the most dynamic thing. But if I step outside, and I don't remember how any of this works. So I've just sat down. I've got to remember how to open the door. There we go. A is open, but you just have to have the target on there. Then the game is starting to cause me some issues. So you won't notice it so much where you are because you're just watching. But for me, I can feel a difference between my actual movements of the joystick and the camera moving on screen. And it gets even worse as I move towards water. Water really makes this game not perform very well on the Steam Deck. But what we're going to do, and I should mention that right now, you can't hear it very well, but the fan is starting to spin up, and we just started playing. I'm going to go into the settings and go into the graphics controls so you can see what I have it set at right now. So vegetation quality is set to low. We'll bump that up to medium. Particle light we'll set to medium. Draw distance is set to medium, and you could make that low or high or very high. We'll keep that at medium. Shadow quality, you see I had it low. Basically what I'm doing is setting these all back to the defaults that they had before, and you will start to see, I believe that the frame rate was set to 60 frames per second before. Anti-aliasing was turned on. I'm going to leave some of these off even still, and we'll tap OK and hop back into the game. And then you can, again, it's hard to tell the issues with the graphics because you don't have access now to the joysticks and to be able to see kind of the responsiveness or lack thereof of the game. But we're going to move over to the fields, and boy howdy is this fan speeding up as we're moving around in this game. So I'll head to the water and show you kind of what the water looks like on mine versus how you may have seen it on Leo's. And now I'm being attacked. And I have to tell you, I honestly do not remember how to attack back. But see, there are some reflections on the water here that you can get, but it's not what you would get if you were using it on a Windows machine itself, or excuse me, on any PC that's built for this gaming itself. So it's okay. And again, if you're willing to sort of make the sacrifice for game quality, visual quality, in order to have that portable console, that's great. But the problem is a portable console should mean that you can play for multiple hours on the go and not have to be, plugged in somewhere. And that's just not how I have been able to experience the Steam Deck so far. And let me switch to a tool I can use to attack that thing that keeps coming after me. And I think that's my axe. So I'll turn around and right trigger. Oh no, I guess I'm just using, I've just died. So death has happened in Valheim, and we're going to close out of that game. I want to go back to the main screen here so that I can show you the mode for the desktop mode, because this is a full-on Linux PC. What we need to do to launch that is to tap and hold the power button, and then you'll see an option that says switch to desktop. And there it will switch out of this kind of gaming view into a Linux machine here on your computer. So it's got this nice wallpaper. You can see I'm using my thumb on one of the haptic trackpads, and as I move my thumb very lightly, I'll feel these little feelings up against my thumb that just kind of provide tactile feedback. And I can move it around and click on different areas of the screen in order to select things. And look, there's the Firefox browser is built right in, so I can click on that and be able to browse as I want to. I would say the one thing that I don't like about the trackpad control is that, and it's almost like a bad complaint to make, they're very sensitive. And so when I'm clicking down, it does feel, or it notices the movements of my thumb pad as it takes up more surface area on the trackpad, and will then move the cursor a little bit. So sometimes it thinks that I'm kind of clicking and dragging instead of just trying to click. And hopefully there will be some adjustments made to that. Because one thing I'll note too, another thing I'll note rather, is that Steam is very good about making sure that they are rolling out updates all the time, bug fixes, performance improvements all the time to make this system work as you want it to. It's very easy from here to be able to browse the web, to access the storage of this device. And then when I'm done, all I do is double click and I can return to the actual gaming mode. So again, I did double click, but it didn't quite recognize that. And so I'm going to try, well, no, that doesn't work either. I was going to try pressing, there we go. Now we get back into the gaming mode. So you can see how it's a little bit picky about how you press the controls. So now we're back in the standard gaming mode, and this, of course, is the one that you're going to see most often. I will say I am overall impressed with the Steam Deck console. As a mobile console, it is beautifully designed. All of the different input methods, it's clear that the Steam Deck is supposed to be this device that can be used for all sorts of games. I've been underwhelmed with the number of games that are available for Steam Deck and offer true compatibility. And furthermore, I've been underwhelmed with its performance at high graphics games, at games that require high performance. If you want to play those games, then you kind of can't think of this as a mobile console. But if you want to use this as kind of a docked machine most of the time, then maybe it is the console for you. Valve has said that they are going to release later on a dock for the Steam Deck that is actually a full-featured dock where you just kind of drop it in and plug it in and it's good to go, with lots of different ports and everything that you need to connect it and power it. So at that point, that might be a good choice for people who just want to have that secondary machine that they can game on from time to time, and for the pixel games, unpacking and like I said, I mentioned it earlier, Graveyard Keeper, to be able to take those around and play those when you want. This is great for that. But outside of that, I'm not sure that what we have is a truly portable gaming console when it comes to the Steam Deck. This is not like taking that beautiful PC that you might have at home with the LED lights and all of the liquid cooling and all those fans and everything that you've got built into it and packing it into a tiny console and somehow making that possible. Just some little stats here. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. Again, there's three models, the 64, the 256, and the 512. If you go with the smallest model, the 64, you're getting eMMC storage versus the NVMe, which is in the other ones. It also has built in a custom designed system on a chip from AMD. The GPU is an AMD RDNA 2. So it, again, for the games that don't require a whole lot of work, it soars. But with those ones that do, it's not the same as having an entirely separate GPU, which again is hopefully something that you would not expect. I want to give one last shout out to the folks at Valve and Steam Deck who made this console, because they have partnered with iFixit to offer all sorts of first-party parts that you can use to repair and replace the Valve Steam Deck. They will sell a new screen to replace the screen that's in it, joysticks when your joysticks wear down, D-pads, all sorts of stuff. And it's my understanding from reading through the press releases that you will also be able to buy upgrades for your Steam Deck. So an OLED monitor maybe, and to replace the display that's in this, or perhaps a joystick technology that's more, that works better, or even replacement for the haptic trackpads that are better sensitivity. All sorts of options that could potentially come to this device. And that means longevity, which is super important if you're going to invest in a console. At more than $500 for the mid-tier model, it is quite the investment. And I was talking with one of our engineers before the show, and I said, I almost think that I personally would rather invest that $500 some into a gaming PC that I could build myself, but I'm okay with stationary. If you are looking for a console that you can take with you everywhere or to many places, and you're okay with some fan noise and the need to plug it in from time to time, then I think you might be very happy with the Valve Steam Deck. For me, as a person who is okay with sitting in one place and playing a game, this may not be the console for me per se, or a person who is after that kind of style. But needless to say, we will continue to play around with this as it gets better, as the more games come to the console. Valve is really trying to make it so that if it's a Windows game, if it, a game designed for Windows, or a game that works with Linux, that all of those are covered, and we'll see how they continue to make improvements on that. And I'm very interested to see how Leo Laporte's experience goes playing Valheim on the Steam Deck, especially because he's spoiled with that giant screen and that really good gaming machine that just absolutely makes for a beautiful experience on Valheim, whereas I kind of have to pull close and squint, and also maybe add some of my own sort of blowing on the fans to make sure that they're keeping the thing cool. It's an entirely different experience, but if you want to make those sacrifices, this is a really good experience for that mobile option for all sorts of games. So that has been our review of the Valve Steam Deck. Hopefully you got to see that unboxing originally and get a look now at our thoughts on this. We gave it some time to really make sure that it was what I expected, and honestly, I have to say, the early reviews of this device were pretty positive. Lots of high praise about it. And in terms of this mobile console, sure, high praise for a mobile console that can do what it can do. But in actually using it over time and comparing it to what people have in terms of a stationary device that will play these games and play them very well with no lag, this does not live up to that hype in particular. So hopefully you got a little bit of knowledge about it and you can make an educated decision on whether the Steam Deck is right for you. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time for more reviews and the latest news here on TWiT. Bye-bye.